Are you ready to fight this holiday season? Seriously, people have had a lot of time on their hands over the last year. You don't know who's been watching Taekwondo videos on YouTube. So let me give you an olive branch to extend to those family members who want to have beef with you with my favorite collard green recipe. It's very simple and it's sure to win over anyone's favor who you may be wanting to slap. And just in case you have that one family member who still wants to criticize your social media posts, today's poor choice is some Hennessy. Because after all, you may need the strength of our ancestors and some Greek gods in order to get through this holiday season. Because nothing is more powerful than a Hennessy-fueled punch to the jaw. I love the holidays. We're starting out with 5 bundles of collard greens, and if you want to buy the pre-packaged stuff that's already been cut up and washed, by all means, go for it. I'm not a fan of stems in my collard greens. I'll eat them, but it kind of just ruins the experience of eating tender greens. So I like to buy them whole and just do the whole entire process myself. It's really not that tedious. You just have to have like an extra hour on your hands. I guess that is tedious. Starting out with 5 bundles of collard greens that I just got from the store. I looked at them carefully just to make sure there wasn't like a lot of blemishes or just a lot of impurities on the leaves. And I'll show you how to spot that out because you're not gonna get a perfect bundle. Some of these leaves do need to be discarded, so I'll show you what to look for. What I've done first is I've taken my collard greens and I've just put them in some bowls of water with some salt in it. This is just kind of like a traditional thing to help clean them because collard greens can tend to have just a lot of dirt and grime on it. If you're buying them from a place like Whole Foods, they're probably pretty clean, so you can just give them like a pretty general washing. But if you're buying it, say from like a farmer's market where it's just coming straight from the field, there's a possibility of not just dirt, but also bugs. So if that's the case, what I would do is do the salt water bath for about 20 minutes for all your collard greens, just kind of get them submerged and maybe add a little bit of vinegar in there just to make sure like anything that's on there could be killed off or washed off. I'm just gonna take these out and I'm just gonna rinse them in the sink and I'm just gonna fill them as I'm rinsing and just making sure there's no dirt left on it. It's pretty simple. And if you want to clean out your sink very, very thoroughly, and you can put all these in there at the same time and give it a good washing. You'll see a lot of people, especially like aunties in the South, they'll stop up the sink and soak their collard greens in there. Just make sure your sink is clean. That's all you gotta do. But pretty easy process. So let me go ahead and rinse these off and then we'll start the fun process, which is just cutting up the leaves. All right, after cleaning these and completely dousing myself in water, we are ready to start getting our collard greens prepared to be cut up. Now, I just wanna show you guys real quick. This is an example of a leaf with impurities. See these yellow parts right here? We don't want that because that's just not good tasting stuff. There's some here, and just looking on the back looks fine, but we definitely want to work around. And sometimes if the leaf like this one, maybe you can't salvage it, so you have to throw the entire thing away. But before I decide whether I want to throw this leaf away or not, I want to show you guys 2 ways in order to get the leaves off your stems. Starting with just turning the leaf over, and literally I just fold it like that. You'll hear that crunching, and then you can just peel it right off. That's the hand way, or the other way. And again, I'm sitting here looking at this. This one's a good leaf. I'm just gonna check the back as well. The other way, just depending on which one you feel is faster, just take a knife, follow it right down the stem, all the way to the end. Boom. Same results, different methods. So you decide which one is best for you. Now, this was the good leaf, so I'm just gonna place that over here real quick. This was the leaf that we may not want to keep all this. So I see this little section here that I don't want, but this other part is good. And again, you can hand tear it. I think this little triangle section right here is good. And listen, if you don't feel like doing this, you don't have to. You can just be like, nah, throw it away. We've got other leaves. And boom. After I've cut a couple of these up, what I like to do is just take them, roll them up nice and tight, as if it were something that you and your cousins would go on a walk for. Hint, hint. Just take a knife, and cut it as thin or as thick as you want. These go into a clean bowl just for right now, and I'm going to finish doing the rest of these. All right, I have finished cutting up our collard greens. I only had to throw away a few leaves that had, the impurities on it, but this is our gold right now. They're in these strips that I love the way they look. They're nice and uniform. As I mentioned earlier, today's pork choice is Hennessy with apple juice, specifically Martinelli's apple juice. I wouldn't try any other apple juice with Hennessy because I'll be honest, I don't even really like Hennessy like that. I think it's gross straight. But with Martinelli's apple juice, it's just like the perfect blend of sweetness and flavor. Cheers to you all. Traditionally, where I'm from in North Carolina, we use ham hocks, smoked ham hocks, as not just a flavoring, but like a meat addition to our collard greens. But I live in LA and a lot of people don't eat pork. So what I'm using today is just some smoked turkey drumettes. We're gonna braise these in a liquid for about 90 minutes just to get them nice and tender so we can get that meat off. It's gonna add some amazing smoke flavor to the broth that we're gonna put in there. And then once that's done, we're gonna throw our collard greens in there and then just walk away. We just let it do its thing. In a large pot, I have got 4 cups of chicken broth simmering away. This is about a medium heat, and I'm probably gonna have to adjust it once I add my other ingredients to it. But to this simmering chicken broth, I am going to add our smoked turkey drumettes. I'm just gonna lay those in. Even though I did the 4 cups of chicken broth, what I wanna do is just have these halfway covered up. So to that chicken broth, I'm gonna just add some water just to get it to come up. And this was about, it was about 2 cups of water that I just added to it. So 6 cups total. It just depends on the type of pot that you're using. So what I'm gonna do is let this come back up to a simmer, and then once it starts simmering away, I'm gonna put a lid halfway on it because I want the steam to be able to get out. And then I am not gonna touch it for at least an hour. What we're trying to do right now is just get this nice and tender so that we can take the turkey off of the bone. So I'm gonna check on it in an hour. It may take another 30 minutes, but we'll kind of see how it's going. But other than this, don't touch it. All right, about 45 minutes in, I actually just want to lift off this lid and take our turkey legs, and I just want to give them just a flip so the other side can get some love, some braising love. Do the same for this. We're gonna let these continue to simmer at the same temperature, and another 45 minutes, we'll check on it and see just how tender they are. All right, it's been an hour and a half. Our turkey drums have been simmering away, and all I'm gonna do right now is just take them out of that broth, but I wanna leave that heat on. And this is just because it's a lot easier to handle this outside of the heat. And I'm gonna take 2 forks. And all I wanna do is just shred this meat off of the bone. Get as much as you can, doesn't have to be perfect. And as you can see, I've also cut up an onion, just 1 yellow onion. And we're gonna use that because once we get this back into the pot, we're gonna start layering everything. All right, back over to our pot, which is still about to be simmering away. First thing I wanna do is just lay down one of our turkey bones that we shredded. This still has a good portion of meat on it, but it's fine because I can shred it again later. But I want that to be the foundation because now we're gonna start building layers with our collard greens. So we've got that in. I have half of a yellow onion that I've diced up, not too crazy, just like that. I'm gonna lay that in there. Got some sea salt. I've got a little fresh cracked black pepper. I have got some garlic powder. And I'm not really measuring any of these out. I'm just kind of eyeballing it just from experience. But maybe each one's like a teaspoon. And then I have got some onion powder here. Yes, onion powder with the actual onions. Some crushed red pepper flakes. And this is going to depend on your level of heat tolerance. But because this is the foundation of it, I'm going to give it a good teaspoon's worth. I've also got just some Cajun seasoning from Grill Mates. You can use any Cajun seasoning. I find that Cajun seasoning in collard greens just adds a little extra something. And feel free to experiment with your seasonings. You could use some Old Bay. I like the Cajun seasoning. I'd say that's about a teaspoon's worth. So now we're gonna start adding our collard greens. And these are going to be layered in because they're just not all going to fit at one time. So I'm placing as many in as I can. And they won't take long to cook down, so don't panic if you put them in and you realize, oh, you have so many that won't fit in your pot. So I think we can put a little bit more in there. There we go, one more little bundle. So this is our first layer. And now what I want to come back and do is just take our other half of the onion, the yellow onion that we chopped up, place that on there. I want to take some of this shredded turkey meat off that smoked turkey drums. Just place it there in the middle. And then we're repeating what we just did earlier. A little bit of sea salt, a little bit of pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, red pepper flakes, some more of our Cajun rub. What makes this recipe stand out from the other recipes that I've done as far as collard greens go is I have a full cup of sugar right here. And so it helps really just take out that bitterness of collard greens. Like that's the reason why we're cooking it so long and it's so much flavor and seasoning is we're just trying to get rid of that bitterness. So I've got this full cup of sugar, and yes, if you're watching your sugar intake, this is probably something you should skip, but I've got it. So I'm only gonna just pour half of it right now over everything. I think that's good. And then I'm gonna put the lid on this real quick, and I just wanna give this like 10 minutes to cook down so we can put the rest of our collard greens, the rest of our turkey, and the rest of the other seasonings in. So we're just building layers right now. So lid on, still at a simmer, which I guess is like a medium heat, just depending on what your oven is working with. And I will show you the other half of the layers that we are doing, but that is as simple as it gets. And also just remember, I don't have this lid completely on. I want the steam to get away, so I'm just letting a little bit of steam get out from here. So 10 minutes, we'll be back to put the rest in. It's been 10 minutes, and as you can see, it's cooked down enough for us to put the rest of our collard greens in there. And so that is exactly what we're going to do. Again, just lay them in. And then, once again, on top, same system. A little bit of sea salt, a little bit of fresh cracked black pepper, or regular pepper. You can use whatever you want. I just have this fancy doohickey here. Got this garlic powder, again, another, maybe half a teaspoon to a teaspoon. So I've got onion powder, some more of our Cajun seasoning, and one more, but a much lighter, crushed red peppers, because remember, we have quite a bit of this in the other layers. Don't forget, we still have our other half of cup of sugar. And listen, if you want to just try this with just a half cup starting out because maybe you're just afraid of all this white granulated sugar, by all means, be my guest and just see from there, what do you need? Because you will have to make some adjustments. Maybe you need more salt, maybe you need more Cajun seasoning, maybe you need more red pepper flakes. You will know once you start tasting it. Our other turkey leg right there. And then the rest of our turkey leg meat. I'm just gonna spread it around. For the next hour and a half or so, we're gonna let this simmer away. I think every 30 minutes I'm gonna check on it. I'm gonna like maybe kind of stir things around just to make sure all layers are being touched. And then at about the hour mark, I'm gonna do my first taste just to see, does it need anything else? Is it at the right tenderness? And then we'll take it from there. Maybe it needs a little bit longer, another 30 minutes, or maybe it is good to go right there. But in the meantime, we put our lid back on with just a little bit of gap right there for some steam to escape. And we don't touch it. So we're gonna let this go for an hour, and we will see how the results look once we get there. All right, it has just been about an hour. Again, it'll depend on your preference of tenderness and also just the temperature that you're cooking at, but I did stir these up a few times just to make sure all my seasonings were mixed up. I gave it a little taste. I added just a little bit more Cajun seasoning just to make sure that everything was where I wanted to be. And now that I feel so good that this is where I want it to be, it is time to plate. All right, our collard greens are done. It took about like an hour and 15 minutes to cook because I really wanted to leave just a little bit of bite. The longer you cook them, the more mushy they can become. So you have to find that right balance for you and your guests. But I like this one. Oh, what's that? Oh, you want me to try it? Well, I wasn't ready, but I guess I can try it. Let's go ahead and just see. This is really good. This is the perfect side. That sweetness from that sugar that we put in there took away the bitterness of the collard greens. The broth, the turkey drumsticks with the smoky flavor, the onions, all those seasonings really just help kind of just build it up to something really, really good. Hey, Poor Choices Kitchen. Let me know what your collard green recipes are. Not so I can steal them. I just want to know what you guys are doing out there. Poor Choices Kitchen. We'll see you here next week.